Yo, Damon, I had a show today planned, ready. We were going to do like a whole Big 12 preseason poll. In light of recent events, I feel like we should just spend an hour and a half defending our damn honor.
Welcome on in, guys, to the AZ Wildcats Podcast. I'm your host, Damon Fairall. He is my guy, Kevin Thomas, voted, unfortunately, to have the craziest, most out-of-pocket sports takes in the office.
You know what I'm going to say.
And your boy got the silver medal sitting right here. You got the 1 and 2, the best combo in sports when it comes to crazy, out-of-pocket sports takes, apparently. And that's what you come here for on the AZ Wildcats Podcast. Please drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Kevin, how are we feeling about our little superlative action? I'll let you speak on yours, and then we could speak on, the horrific trap that I was set into. Everybody took the bait.
I was going to say that, you were set up in an extraordinary way.
Oh, my God.
I was set up in a little bit more of a covert way, where, like, as soon as you and I were going through, voting on... Pull back the curtain a little bit for context. Here at PHNX, our interns, our social interns, very talented people, they put together a little bit of a superlatives. You know what I mean? So you're going through who's got this, who's most likely to do that. And as soon as the first question, I read it, and I knew it was a setup to get Damon on the list. And then my question that I thought I would get voted for it was, who has the craziest sports takes in the company? And the answer was me, but I don't think that's correct.
No.
I knew that people would vote me because they're going to conflate my crazy takes elsewhere for crazy sports takes, which I don't have that many crazy sports takes. But yeah, you were set up in an extraordinary way. We'll get to Damon's in a second. This is the way it broke down for mine. As you can see, 29.4% for who has the most out-of-pocket sports takes falls to your boy. And I can't get down with that. You brought up the good point that it should have been somebody else, Damon. Who did you think it should have been?
Well, I'm sitting there at 23.5% in second place there. Me and you getting the bulk share of that by a significant margin.
Oh, man.
I'll tell you what, it definitely shouldn't be me and you. And I know that sounds like, of course, we're biased, but, I don't think Kevin has that crazy of takes. I'll say that to start this out. I think Kevin has crazy life takes. And I said this the minute that we did the voting. We all knew Kevin was probably going to win this superlative. And I disagree with Kevin about the stupidest, most mundane of details when it comes to, like, what's the best Polar Pop flavor to get at Circle K, and we'll argue it for an hour. But what Kevin and I don't necessarily disagree on all that much is opinions on what we're watching on the court, on the field, and etc. So I think that was unfair to you, Kevin. I think that I'm getting misinflated there, or is that a word?
Misconstrued?
Misconstrued.
Misrepresented?
Misrepresented. Those are much better words to describe what I'm trying to convey. But
it's all right.
The reason I think I'm being misrepresented just in the way that I'm extremely loud and bold in my takes, and I do not back down when people try to argue with me. But I think that I try to bring logical arguments and whatnot to the table. Johnny Venerable is just getting away scot-free. What are we talking about? This guy kills teams dead in week 2 of the NFL season. Then they go on to lose in one possession games to the eventual Super Bowl champions in the conference championship game. He's constantly doing stuff like that. Oh, this guy can't play. Calling out careers of coaches and players. He is by far the most out-of-pocket sports takes, and I will not stand that me and you are being, put in that position there, Kevin, when Johnny Venerable is the only reason he's getting away with it is because he's sitting at home in front of his computer instead of being in here talking to all the soldiers every day.
Johnny gets away with this one because he's lovable. He's literally venerable. He's remote. He does the mew. People love the mew. People love the boom. Like you know, he's got all these things that people love. So they would never want to vote, you know, Johnny Venerable, Johnny V, JV, JG's best friend as craziest sports takes. How could you have the craziest sports takes if an NFL head coach wants to sit and have candy with you? You know what I mean? It's impossible. So, yeah, I feel like I was set up for that one. You also by proxy.
And Anthony Totri belongs over there as well. I mean, the guy just says crazy stuff about the NFL. Things like Justin Herbert is an elite quarterback. And we just sit there and we have to take it. It's disgusting. But moving on, Kevin, to what is my number, you know, the first one that they asked on the question board, that's I think really what hit me in the chest, Kevin, is immediately it was like, how could we start this thing off with just the most pointed, directly shooting a shot at somebody question of all time? And the question was, who's most likely to turn a meeting into a sports debate? And unlike any other poll on this entire superlatives list here, Kevin, it was an absolute blowout. An absolute blowout. This is you know, Arizona versus Arizona State in basketball right here. This is the amount of times that U of A beats ASU in games. 88.2%. It's insane. Has anyone ever been set up more? It's a trap.
No. Honestly, no. I was going to name some people, but I didn't want to get in trouble. You know what I mean? So I'm going to say no. No one's ever been set up worse than this.
It's pretty bad.
It's really bad.
The second I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's... And you know what? I'll wear it like a badge of honor. And also, I'll come out swinging too. If any of you, you know, you guys are going to vote me most likely to turn a meeting into a sports debate, let's get into a sports debate right now about it.
Yeah,
That's how I feel.
I can't wait for all of our meetings with Leah and Shane when they get back for you to purposefully now turn them into sports debates. Because for those that don't know at home, Damon already hates meetings. And so I feel like now he has an extra opportunity to not only elongate them, but cause arguments in them. And so I'm with this as a bystander in all of this. I'm with it. So I think you should just go full. You know, the D-backs aren't really bringing any chaos this year. You can bring the chaos to every meeting you have.
Kevin, was there any other superlatives in there that you thought you were going to win or that you thought was like a big upset?
No, and that's like the reason why you and I felt set up, right? Is because there were really only one for, it was like they thought in mind, like, all right, which one's for Kevin? Which one's for Damon? You know what I mean? And so for that reason alone, no, I really didn't have any other ones we could talk about. We were talking about which, you know, person was most likely to name their child after an athlete. And yeah, I mean, answers are all over the place for that. Go check out PHNX_sports social media on Twitter. Get the full list there.
Erica,
yeah.
Enlighten me. What team are we talking about here? The Indiana Fever? I feel like I'm trying to think about what team Erica would even care about. Obviously, she likes U of A.
Yeah, she said, Damon, I don't like your team. I actually don't know. Maybe she means like all half-decade team, but is that out yet?
Because I didn't have a. I got you. No, Erica is checking the work channels.
Wow.
And discovering my list before it has been put out to the public yet. Which is, you know, I get it. And Erica, you know what? I look forward to hearing, you know, your reasoning as to why you don't like my list as much as I look forward to, you know, debating my list and why it's the correct one.
I was going to say, Damon, I think maybe we go into that next while we're already here, considering Eric, this is a perfect segue, right? Because this conversation that we're having right now, Erica coming in and being like, I don't like your team. Mm-hmm. And you being like, you know what? That's okay. You don't like my team because we can have different opinions. There's a guy in this office that's been having these kind of interactions today over and over again. And we call him GM Spo. You know what I mean? He's just been defending himself all morning because he put out his all Arizona half-decade team or Arizona all half-decade team, whatever you want to call it, however you want to slice it up. And people were unhappy, Damon. People were very unhappy. Kobe, who just entered the chat, Kobe was unhappy for certain. I know that's correct. New profile picture on Kobe as well. Shout out. But
Master Chief still.
Yes. Got to stay true to the roots there. But like truly, Damon, I know you had a bit of a reaction to it. Can you kind of outline what happened with Espo's list there?
Yeah, so it was supposed to be a fun little conversation starter. Throw some kerosene on the fire a little bit. But it was just a fun little personal Espo half-decade team list for Arizona sports. As Kevin and I feel like try to represent often. I feel like we disagree in many cases when lists like this come out, that the lack of Arizona Wildcat presence on it is not what it should be, right? Like, what was the list that Espo did on Southwest Bias the other day of like best things that are happening in Arizona sports right now, and Tommy Lloyd wasn't
Reasons
on
for
the list.
hope. Reasons for hope.
Yeah, so it's something like that, right? Like we don't have to agree. We could disagree on stuff, and that's what we're going to do today. We brought together, Kevin and I both made our own personal all half-decade team lists, but first and foremost, I mean, did you have Espos ready to go, or should I pull that up so we could discuss it real quick?
You should pull that up real quick.
Will do.
I know the main point of contention is that there is a certain island boy, Tetaroa McMillan, Nalo, if you will. He's missing. He's omitted from the list, and I think that is the most the people had contention with on this list. There were some other people on this list that you and I will get into that there's a big debate for, but T-Mac not being on the list was certainly one that people were not happy with Espo about.
Yeah, so Espo's 6-man list was Cam Scadaboo, Devin Booker, Kyler Murray, Diana Taurasi, Merrill Kelly, and James Conner. Kevin, when I say that list to you, what sticks out?
Merrill Kelly. Merrill Kelly sticks out. He is the mainstay, but I don't know if he should be a mainstay on this list. Also, James Conner, great story, great back, great guy. Not sure if he should be on the list. And like I said, no T-Mac. You can plug and play whatever way you want to get him on that list, but he's got to be on that list. And those are the main points of contention I had with Espo's list. But I really didn't feel the need to hop in Espo's DMs or come into the office and scream at him about it, because I really didn't care that much.
You handled things a little bit differently. I immediately went straight to Espo's office, asked if I could close the door behind me, and me and him got into a screaming match where I was saying, how dare you leave our sweet baby boy Tetaroa McMillan off the list. I think this is for me, at least when it comes to T-Mac, this is a matter of what have you done for me lately? And what people remember in their heads, whether it's right or not, is Cam Scadaboo's last season that he had at Arizona State. He was a top 5 Heisman candidate. He had a dream, unbelievable season. No one remembers what he did prior to that, apparently, because in 2023, he was a very good player. I think anyone could see that who was watching ASU. But that was a 3-9 football team that, really was pretty bad. And he was one of the bright spots, I will say. But kind of similar to how T-Mac was one of the bright spots on Arizona this year, no? I had people, Kevin, when, I tweeted about it, of course, because I can't help myself. But I had people in my mentions being like, well, we had a first-year head coach in 2023. How could you expect and put those expectations on the team to be good? And I was like, are you serious right now? It's like the people, they don't see that it's almost mirrored, right? And I'm not saying that the expectations weren't higher for Brent Brennan in year one, because they absolutely were, right? But it also was a first-year head coach, and T-Mac was hurt by that. But that doesn't erase what happened in 2022. It doesn't erase what happened in 2023. And that doesn't erase him staying at Arizona and being kind of the main galvanizer of that, as like evidenced by his and Noah's little documentary that they did, where Noah even admitted that T-Mac was like, how are we going to get everybody to stay? The second Jed Fish had his exit meeting with the team. And so that's where it's like, I think that, people can point to and say, well, yeah, Scat has an emotional connection to ASU, and that's a big reason as to why he belongs on that list. And I would agree with that. But how could you just omit those reasons for Tetaroa McMillan when Arizona fans were calling for statues to be built of this man outside of Arizona Football Stadium, because he means so much to the university and the fan base? So that's where I sit here and I say the emotional connection is equal, in my opinion. It's just the fact that when you're living in Phoenix and you're around all the ASU people all the time, it kind of in your head, it doesn't necessarily feel like that as much.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. Excuse me. And you think about like the connection that people have with T-Mac and like the program has with T-Mac. The guy's not even been gone. I mean, we joke about him being just gone weeks, right? But he literally he's barely left. He went and got drafted, went and made, did a couple, practices with Bryce Young, and he's right back to Tucson to hang out with Noah Fifita and his family and all the people in Tucson that he loves. He means everything to that program from a if there's a person that represents Arizona football better than Tedero McMillan right now, I mean, maybe you could say Noah Fifita, but you know what I mean? Like you'd have to introduce me to that person. So I feel like to discount what T-Mac meant to U of A in lieu of trying to boost up Cam Scattaboo's case, it doesn't really work for me either. And also like the argument that Scat was better than T-Mac. First of all, apples to oranges. But second of all, like better than him at what? Literally at what? He's better than him at one position, running back. And that's about the conversation that you can have in terms of that. Hey, T-Mac's the better receiver. And hey, that's true. Hey, that's true. That is true. Little extra toolbox quarterback. He can do the thing. You're right. But yeah, he's just simply not a better football player than T-Mac is. And that's a ridiculous
he's not
argument.
as evidenced by the National Football League and the scouts and GMs that get paid to do their job. I don't think it's really particularly close. We're talking about a guy who was number 8 overall compared to a guy who was number 105 overall. A guy who steps into the Carolina Panthers organization as wide receiver 1 versus a guy who has to battle it out with Tyrone Tracy Jr. to be the RB2 of the New York Football Giants. I really think it's pretty simple when you outline it like that. And again, I think Scat belongs on this list, as you'll see on my own personal list. I just think that when you're talking about Scat versus T-Mac, to say Scat belongs on it and T-Mac doesn't is egregious. And it just shows your bias because, as I said, right now I have both on my list.
Should we get into your list?
Yeah,
Damon?
Sure. Let's do my list. That's called being unbiased. That's called looking at things in an overall sense. Espo's staring at me, shaking his head.
It's called Southwest bias. It's a show 11 a.m.
It should be changed to Phoenix bias, Espo, Valley bias, because we don't put any Tucson people on it. Back to my list here.
We got a whole crowd now.
We do have a crowd, including Anthony Totri, who's not happy right now. Not happy hearing this list. But I got Tedero McMillan in my one spot there. Obviously, no particular order. It's just the way that it worked out on the graphic. Has to be on there. As Cam Scattaboo changed the Arizona State football program and what they have going on in Tempe, T-Mac did the same. And now that progress was halted in the way of you lose your coach in February almost when it comes to Jed Fish because Nick Saban retires out of nowhere. But that, again, this is the all half-decade team, not the all 2024 team. Cam Scattaboo belongs on the list. There's the Arizona State representation. They made the playoff. It's a football program reborn. Then I got a couple Suns players on here. You got to go Devin Booker. I think he's been a part of every team in the all half-decade years that we've done here. And, he's been a part of some of the best teams in Suns history, as well as, the leading scorer in franchise history already. And then I put Chris Paul on here. I know that a lot of people weren't necessarily talking about Chris Paul. His stats don't jump off the screen at you in terms of like maybe, compared to some of the other guys that you would have on this list. But in my opinion, I think Chris Paul really was the driving force on that Phoenix Suns team that made the finals, especially when I go back and watch highlights of that entire playoff run. Every big shot is just Chris Paul just being the man, just mid-range jumper right in your mouth. And I feel like, the Suns mean so much to Valley sports, and he was such a big factor of those teams. You got to put him on there. And then I rounded out with 2 Arizona Diamondbacks, Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, the 2 probably staples of the organization as currently constituted, 2, starters and 2 stars of the 2023 World Series team. And guys that are perennial all-stars, really. I know Corbin didn't make it in 2024, but he had a all-star caliber second half. He had a disaster first half of the season that kept him out, which is obviously when all-star voting is made. And he's made it the other 2 years of his MLB career. So those are my list. You'll notice I didn't put any Cardinals players on it. And that's just because I think that the Cardinals haven't really had the relevant enough teams to be on this list in general. They've been pretty bad as of recently. And that's no disrespect to James Conner or Kyler Murray or how good they are. But I think if anything, I'd put Budda Baker on there, just given that he's been, I think, a Pro Bowler like 4 of those 5 years in the All-Decade team. But Kyler Murray is absolutely on the 6-man short list of Valley sports landscape. If we were doing that, but I think he'd be the first to tell you that he hasn't earned it on the field yet. And hopefully that comes for the Cardinals. But I just don't think that you've seen enough yet from a Cardinals standpoint to have any of those players on this list, really.
I like your list a lot, Damon. I also understand why Erica Day does not like your list. But and
no Merck players, and we could speak to it when you give your list.
Yes, exactly. And this is my list, Damon, as you already alluded to. I have T-Mac because absolutely duh. He is, I mean, we don't got to really outline T-Mac on this podcast. We're preaching to the choir, but he is a backbone of the program while he was their highest rated recruit, the whole 9 yards, most receiving yards, all of it. Devin Booker, for what he has done for the Suns organization, is on my list. Kyler Murray does make my list. If we were to reflect further, it's probable that he would not make my final list if I were to do it again. People have brought to my attention the Budda Baker case of it all, and I think Budda Baker probably deserves that spot over Kyler Murray. I put DT on my list. I think her importance to the Merck organization and women's basketball in the Valley is incredible, and also reaching the milestone she did over the last half decade statistically is important as well, enough to make my personal list. And then I, like you, also have, Carol, shout out to Derek, and Cattell Marte on the tail end of my list there as well, Damon. But you and I had a couple differences on there. Would you like to litigate those?
Yeah, why don't you start? Why did Diana Taurasi make your list? I'll let you present your case.
Like I said, the milestones, the representation of how she represented the organization as a whole, helping to continue to grow the game, being overall one of the most recognizable women's hoopers in the history of the sport, and that only continued as she, piled up those accolades during the last half decade, Damon. I do understand, though, that, not including Diana Taurasi, I'm not going to say it would be crazy for you to have not done that like you did, because the some of the on-court achievements in terms of like rings and playoffs and things like that might not be as strong. Like if you're saying that Chris Paul should make the list because he got them where he got them and was the leader of that team, I could hear that argument. But DT does make my list for those reasons.
Yeah, I'm looking here at Diana Taurasi's final 5 seasons here from 2020 on. Made 2 All-Star appearances, was second team All-WNBA in 2020. Obviously was always a prolific scorer, even until the end of her career, the twilight of her career. Was taking a ton of shots. I will throw in there, not to get people mad at me. But,
and a ton of texts.
It's like she had earned that 100% at that point in her career, but it gives me a little bit of shades of late Kobe, where it's just like, I'm just going to go out there and do whatever the hell I want because I'm Kobe. And what are you going to say about it? I just think that if this was a all 2010s team and all 2000s team, you would be any of the half decades from 2000 essentially, or I guess from 05 because she was drafted in 04. From 05, if you took it 05 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, I would have her on every single one of those teams without a question in the world. I just think that when we're talking about the twilight of her career here, that feels like almost like we're doing like a somewhat of a all-time great honorary spot, and that's why I don't put her in there. But no disrespect to anybody has. She is the probably the greatest athlete in the history of Valley sports when it comes to all the context of all their leagues and whatnot applied. So that's just why she didn't make my list. And then, as we already talked about with the Cardinals players, I just don't think the Cardinals has done enough. And I think that we're seeing a new era of Cardinals football right now. But that's a really bad window of Cardinals football. That's Steve Wilkes and Josh Rosen to Cliff Kingsbury and the epic collapse after a 9-0 start to the start of the Jonathan Gannon era, where they were the least talented team in football. Like, now they will start to win games, hopefully. But I just think that, in this half decade, they just don't belong on that list.
I'm with you. And like I said, I think if I was to redo my list, I think I would still have a Cardinal on there. I think it might be Budda Baker. for just truly being the backbone of the NFL franchise in the Valley and continuing to produce at a high level for that franchise. But yeah, I think it was important to talk about this on today's show. I'm glad that Max asked if Kirk Kriisa could be an honorable mention, because you and I were like, is this Pella Larson erasure? You know what I mean? Should Pella Larson have Caleb Love? Benedict Mathurin?
Caleb Love has a shout. Ben Mathurin, he played 2 years, which makes it a little bit more difficult, but his ceiling was certainly high enough to be on this. I just think that maybe the postseason success wasn't there.
Yeah.
Like if he had got Arizona to that so coveted Final Four that we've been, begging for since 2001, like then I would be, like going to actual war over him not being on the list if he didn't make it. But Sweet 16, like it feels like we do that every year almost.
Do you think that if the Pacers were able to finish the job, does it count at all for you because he's an Arizona alum? Like if we were to do this list in like 8 months.
No, because TJ McConnell was the man in that final, so I almost would that would be where my mind goes.
But I'm saying like Mathurin's over, like he was on Arizona within the last half decade.
No, I get it. I get
still,
that.
You know what I'm saying? So I was wondering if that could at all.
I don't think so. To me, the what you do for the team that's in Arizona is all that matters, essentially.
Okay.
So that's why that factored into my list. I will say regarding Budda Baker, and I know this isn't a Cardinals football show, but he's made every Pro Bowl in that time period. He's made 5 Pro Bowls, and he's made 3 All-Pro teams, including a first-team All-Pro in that 5-year stretch. So it's kind of hard to leave him off the list.
It is
when you put that into context. Like he's essentially made 5 straight All-Star games and made 3 of the 5 All-Pro teams at the end of the season when there's 4 slots for each year. So he's been a top 4 safety. So yeah, I mean he deserves an absolutely a shout as well. I think if I was to take someone off my list in favor of Budda Baker, I would probably do Corbin Carroll.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
Just because he only has played 3 of the 5. He did have somewhat of a down year in one of them, but he's been incredible in the other 2. So, and he's part of a winning team.
Max in the chat says, is Book, Cattell, or Corbin the half-decade MVP, though?
I'd say it has to be Cattell or Book, for sure.
I would say it's Book.
Probably Book.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it would have to be Book just because of the outsized level of production you can have as a hooper versus a baseball player.
Played in the finals, been on all 5 of those teams. Yeah, you're right. Like a one singular basketball player has more impact by a long shot than one singular baseball player, especially a position player. And yeah, I think that's fair. I think Devin Booker is probably the MVP there. But Rudy up here in the comments, I did want to mention this. Did I go to Robbins Elementary School? I may have. I did, in fact, go to Robbins Elementary School, get my elementary school doxed. Rudy, did you go to Robbins Elementary School, brother? And if so, were we in the same grade? Make sure you drop that in the comments. We'll be very interested to find out. But yeah, Kevin, anything else before we kind of round out this discussion about our all half-decade teams?
No, but I do think I like the idea of Rudy being someone that was in your elementary school grade and just like has watched this show multiple times and just like, I know that guy. Where do I know that guy from? And then today, Tuesday, August 5th at like 2:28, he's like, yo, Robbins Elementary School. That's what I was thinking of in my head. But no, I don't have any more.
That might have actually been what happened.
on the all half decade team. Yeah, just, I don't know. Be nice.
Respect our Wildcats.
I was about to say, respect the Wildcats and also just like touch grass every once in a while, people. If you have
that's
to.
the other thing. It's a fun little sports discussion. It's not the
you can
end all
also
be
put
all.
your list out there.
I had a tweet, and I always forget when I make my tweets these days, Kevin, that you can't joke on Twitter anymore.
No,
it's
especially
actually
doing what we do. It's hard.
It's actually not allowed. So when I say something like Cam Scadaboo would make for a better Disney Channel original movie, and T-Mac is a better football player, and I have people that are literally want me dead in my head on a stick to be paraded around town in the comments, it's like, guys, let's relax a little bit and maybe laugh at life and maybe respond with something else funny that could get me back. I don't know. Give me a zinger. I'd love to see it.
Or people do this with all-star teams every single season, especially in the NBA, where they're like, "Oh, Damon made it on the all-star team? No way. That's a fraudulent thing that happened." And then you're just like, okay, but like, who do you think should have made it instead? Like, if you have a problem with someone's list, make your own list. Respond with the list.
That's what you did.
That's exactly what I did. And I don't know. I feel like people just love to be upset. And I'm just like, go touch grass and you'd have a better day. And yeah, that's the all half decade team conversation.
For example, I was during this debate, you know, because it naturally my tweet sparked a ton of Scat versus T-Mac discourse. And, you know, I have people being like, well, Scat played for a team that, you know, lost their only bowl game that he played in his entire college football career, but a team that made it to a New Year's Six bowl. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, but we're not going to apply the context of 2023 was a 14 playoff versus a 12-team playoff. Arizona finished 11th in the final AP poll. Arizona played in a Pac-12 that featured quarterbacks such as Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Cam Ward, you know, Cam Rising before he was in a hospital bed using a walker. Absolute star-studded conference from top to bottom. That Washington State team wasn't even good. They had the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 draft as under center. And it's like, that's where I get upset, where it's like, why can we apply context to one guy, but we can't for another guy? And why are we only talking about 2024 versus every other year that happened in that whole half decade?
Yeah. I mean, it's just their Southwest bias, Damon.
Valley bias, as I said. But yeah, that was a fun discussion. And as you mentioned, Kevin, touch grass, people. It's not that big of a deal at the end of the day. It's just sports. And the reason is to debate and discuss and have fun. That's what we love, and that's why we do this job. But appreciate everybody. Yeah, Sam Albert's recency bias. I love that. Drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Kevin, we're going to talk a little bit more about some Big 12 football and give our own personal preseason polls because the Big 12 decided to get rid of that this year. Scrap it. We're going to put our polls out there for people to laugh at and make fun of at the end of the year because guess what? This conference and the parity is unbelievable. And I know one or both of us is going to look like a big, stupid idiot at the end of the year after these rankings. But we'll do that right after the break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast.
You know, a lot of conflict on social media, but one thing we can all agree on is that Circle K has the best snacks, gas, fuel for not only your body, but your car that you drive. Circle K is the best. It is America's thirst stop. I love Circle K's peanut butter stuffed pretzels. That is my vice of choice these days, and I cannot get enough of them. But I'm also part of that inner circle, meaning when I joined that inner circle for free, I saved 25 cents off on my first 5 fill-ups, 3 cents off every fill-up after that until I graduated into that inner circle, the true inner circle, if you know what I mean. 5 cents off per gallon every time I fill up now. It's the best. Join the inner circle today to not only get deals on gas, you can get $1 cookies, you can get 79-cent Polar Pops, 99-cent Frosters, and a lot more. So join the inner circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions to apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for more details.
Love our friends at Circle K. Love our friends at Empire today because they are the only people to go to if you need some new flooring, guys, because this is the deal. I mean, there's big box stores out there, right, where they're just trying to get you to swipe your card. That's all that matters to them at the end of the day. They want to get you in line. They want to get your new flooring that you bought in your cart there, and then they just want to swipe that card, let you take care of the rest, let you hire a contractor who's going to put that flooring down. Not Empire today. They are the flooring experts for a reason. It's because from start to finish, they provide you the absolute tip-top product that you could find in the market, whether it's, carpet, tile, hardwood, you name it, man. Empire today has hundreds and thousands of options to choose from and styles that will fit your home. And you can use their virtual floor designer to check out exactly what that flooring that you're interested in will look like in your home before you make a purchase that you regret. That's why they do it better than any other company that you could possibly get your flooring done at. Empire today, the only place to call if you need some new flooring. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. PHNX listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code PHNX. Yes, you heard that right, guys. $350 off with our promo code of PHNX. Visit EmpireToday.com/PHNX for full details.
All right. You know, I'm glad we led off with the all half decade team conversation because it was a
Warm
nice
us up a little bit.
It was, and it also gave us a nice cautionary warning out there. We already told people to go touch grass. We already told people that if you have a problem with our list, make your own and tell us about it. So if you have a problem with our Big 12 preseason poll, please refer back to topic number 2 today, and then we can continue with our show.
Send it to us every week of the entire Big 12 football season and be like, seriously, guys?
Yeah.
Really? Utah at 8, Damon?
When
you serious?
When UCF starts out 9-0 this season, please hop in my DMs.
Well, if that happens, then we're screwed. But yeah, Kevin, we did create our preseason poll here, and as Tom says, please leave a like on this video for your boys getting up here, debating, putting their reputations on the line,
our pride on the line
when it comes to these preseason rankings. Because as I said, like, and Kevin, we were talking about it off air, there's like 6 teams in this conference where if they won the conference championship at the end of the season, you wouldn't be shocked. Like, would it be a little surprising if a team like TCU won the entire thing? Yeah. But could they, hypothetically?
Also, yeah.
I think so. So it's like there's almost half the conference has like a legitimate kind of shout to be considered a conference champion type of team. And that's going to lead to absolute chaos when it comes to the Big 12 this season. I'll go ahead and start, Kevin, if you want me to start, and we can kind of just run through this list.
Should I throw the whole list up there?
What do you think?
Yeah, why not?
Let's do it. All
Just
right.
break it down.
Toss it up there. We got 16 teams in conference, and I ranked all of them from 1 to 16. I'll start at the back, I guess, and kind of run through them a little bit fast. UCF, new coach, Scott Frost, been there before. I think they lost a ton of talent. I just don't expect them to be that great this season. One of the lesser quarterback kind of groups here in the conference doesn't inspire. Taven Jackson doesn't inspire a ton of confidence in me. Maybe Scott Frost is just back home and that's where he'll be able to succeed. Nebraska was too much and UCF's better, but I got them last. West Virginia, same thing. Rich Rod going back to his old stomping grounds. Have you seen, you could pull it back on me here for a second, Kevin. Have you seen any of Rich Rod's stuff that has been going kind of viral here in the start of fall camp?
I saw one clip, but I haven't seen all the Rich Rod clips.
He's like threatening to replace players. He's like, there's still 4,000 players in the portal, and my scouts are going to be looking for contributors that can play right away. And so he's like already threatening to get rid of people. I saw they logged a prediction to land an Oregon State linebacker already too. So it's like they're clearly not happy with what they got in place right now. And I think, Nico Marchiol, while an Arizona product, a Hamilton product, so he's pretty good friends. He played on the same team as Trey Spivey, Genesis Smith, Tay Brown, like Grayson Stovall, all of those guys. We'll see how he plays this year, but unproven at that quarterback position. Next up, I got Oklahoma State. I almost put them last, Kevin. I ended up putting them a little bit higher, just kind of out of respect for Mike Gundy as a coach.
Yeah,
like he's just done this for so long. I almost think that it raises their floor a little bit. But Mike Gundy's talking about a quarterback competition right now, Kevin, that is like still ongoing. And he apparently last time he was using the type of terminology that he's using right now, he played 3 quarterbacks in the season opener and in the non-conference schedule. So if that's the case, I just don't think Oklahoma State's all that great of a spot. If you have 3 quarterbacks, Kevin, you have 0 quarterbacks.
I was going to say, like, usually if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have 0 quarterbacks. That is the case outside of like extraordinary circumstances. Like we've seen Arizona do it before. Colorado's going to attempt it this year, but like 3 quarterbacks, you might have -5 quarterbacks at that point. But back to your list.
Yeah, I got Cincinnati coming up next. I think Brendan Sorsby is a good player. I just don't really believe in this program all that much. I think that, Cincinnati really hasn't been that great since they moved to the Big 12, after that college football playoff season that they had, where they had all those NFL players under Luke Fickell. But we'll see here regarding Cincinnati. I think that bottom 3 is kind of my set in stone bottom 3, Kevin. This next group, for me at least, is this kind of 13 to 9, I'd say. These next 5 teams, I think, are all kind of jumbled together, starting with Cincinnati, moving on to Houston at 12. I think Willie Fritz is a really good coach and a program builder. I expect him to, kind of right the ship when it comes to Houston football, especially with Keyshawn Henderson coming in next season, who's, the number 2 quarterback, I believe, in the country. I think they're going to be good. I don't think that it's going to happen yet because I don't believe in Connor Weigman, but I do think that Houston's defense is going to be good this year, and that's why I have them out of the lower group. I don't think Connor Weigman inspires all that much confidence in me. Colorado, I'm putting at 10. Here's the thing with Colorado, or I guess I'm skipping Arizona, huh? U of A's at 11. U of A and Colorado, I was going back and forth on. I believe I had, when we did our schedule prediction, Kevin, I believe I had Arizona losing to Colorado, but beating BYU at 9. So that kind of makes that interesting there. Yeah, I guess we have our schedule ranking right there. Yeah, I have a win against BYU and a loss against Colorado there. So
keep that thing on me, Damon.
Yeah, of course. And so I think that those I think these teams are going to be really neck and neck. Different to Oklahoma State. I do think Colorado has 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah,
they're good.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, they're going to attempt to do it, and I feel like they actually could pull it off.
They have options there.
Yeah.
I think they might give it to Caden Salter at first and just see what happens, and then maybe Juju Lewis, if Caden Salter's struggling, would take over because he has that redshirt ability. We'll see there, but I do think Colorado could be decent this year. I think they could be pretty good, better than some people think. And that's why I have them above Arizona. I have BYU at 9. I think BYU is a good coach. I think they have a really good defense. I think they have good position players. I just think that their quarterback situation is such a disaster. How could you put them that much higher? It doesn't, like, they don't have a starter right now. And similar to Oklahoma State, it's like a 3-man competition for who's going to be the starting quarterback. And one of the guys is a true freshman in Bear Bachmeier, who was going to Stanford, was going to, I think, redshirt there potentially. Then he transfers to BYU. And as a true freshman, he's in the running for the job. That could either bode really well for them in the future, right? If Bear Bachmeier gets in there and he's awesome and BYU's great for 3 seasons, or it's a disaster, right? And you wasted a really good roster because you lost your quarterback really late on in the offseason. So that's why I have BYU capped out there. I think that they're going to be a kind of an average team in this conference, pretty much solely because of their quarterback situation. How do you feel about my bottom half of the list here, Kevin?
I do like your bottom half of the list. I mean, we can get into it a little bit more, but I feel like I want to talk more about that Colorado Arizona conversation because I think that is, when you're ranking Arizona, it feels like that is a close kind of contentious ranking there, in my opinion as well. But I do feel like the bottom of our list, not to spoil anything, are pretty similar. I think when we get to the top, you and I are going to have more interesting conversation to have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely so, because that top is a lot more mumbled jumbled. I think we have the same 8 teams, but they're all over the place in completely randomized order. Glenn in here talking about Bourget potentially starting for BYU. That's another option. Trayson Bourget, who went to South Point, drink, or McKay Hillstead is the other option. Those are the 3 that are kind of vying for that spot there. And that's scary if you're BYU, man. It's really scary if you're BYU because you have a talented team and you thought you were going to be really good. And instead you're probably season is probably going to get derailed off the back of 3 QBs that, are just really not quite ready, or maybe not even quite that caliber. We'll see. But I would say I feel bad for BYU fans, but I don't.
I mean, to be honest, I don't really either. They've had some great moments recently to reflect on, They have good times to reflect on. So I don't know. I don't know. I feel bad. No sympathy out of me.
Did you want to give your bottom half, and then we could discuss top halves after the break?
Sure. Let's do it. Here's my Big 12 preseason poll. My bottom half looks similar there. UCF coming in at 16. What the hell is going on in that program right now? I can't tell you. And I tried to look it up myself. West Virginia. This is more so out of respect to Rich Rod. You know what I'm saying? They have to be better than UCF. There's no way that they can be worse than UCF, right? Rich Rod must get that ship on the road at some point, I feel like. And I think that, coming in with that gotta have the Louis bags ready, the luggage is packed kind of mentality. I do think it sets a standard, and I do think that will be good for Rich Rod in West Virginia. Moving on to the Mike Gundy respect spot, which is that third to last team. Oklahoma State I have there purely out of respect to Mike Gundy and what he has been able to do for that program. I believe he's only had less than 7 wins once, and it was last season since he's been there. So I do feel like he will have a better year this year. Not good enough to get out of the bottom 3. Moving into 13, which is, like Damon said, this kind of starts the grouping of teams that are, you could argue one way or the other for just about any of these spots. Cincinnati coming in at 13 for me. I have Houston at 12. I think Connor Wegman is going to be able to show some flashes, but I don't think, like in the rest of his career thus far, he'll be able to put together the consistent season that would dictate them being ranked higher. I have Arizona and Colorado flip-flopped compared to Damon's list, where I think that now, okay, I'm setting myself up to sound crazy here, but I do think that there's been a ton of
craziest
roster
in the office.
I know, damn it. There's continuity in important spots for Arizona, like at that quarterback position. There's continuity now across the roster. There is drastically different faces everywhere, all the way down to the staff. The OC, Danny Gonzalez promoted to DC. Joe Salavea has been brought in. But I like we've talked about before on this show, Damon, I don't think the continuity would have helped. I think it would have hurt, right? I think lack of continuity for Arizona actually helps them this season.
Yeah.
And I think that the response is important, right? I feel like the lack of continuity in Colorado, you don't have, I mean, maybe you do, but on paper, you don't have 2 like all-time program great talents on roster. You know what I mean? Coming into this year. And who
are floor raisers. They also,
correct.
I will mention, they lost I believe their top 3 or 4 receivers. So it's not as if they're kind of bringing back the boys.
Correct.
It's like they're losing. I will say their O-line is probably the best O-line they've had in the Dion era. They actually, on paper, have a really, really good offensive line for the first time, kind of in the 3 years there. But their weaponry is going to be all brand new people, and they're bringing in new quarterbacks. I mean, it's a new look offense. That could look like anything.
And that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I feel like the lack of continuity helps Arizona, but I feel like by that, if you put it in the same vacuum, it gets caught if you're Colorado. I don't think it helps them to have a lack of continuity. I think being able to bring back players, you know what I'm saying, as unrealistic as it might have been, would have helped them as well. So I think Colorado is in my 11 spot with Arizona in my 10 spot. And that also means I get to say Arizona is a preseason top 10 team in my book. BYU is in my number 9 slot. I think that while the quarterback situation is quite concerning, the overall roster strength and the coaching staff that BYU has put together, I cannot in my right mind put Arizona preseason ahead of BYU. I just think that there's too much talent on the roster as a whole, in addition to that quarterback situation, which I agree knocks them down a peg. But if they did not have that quarterback chaos, I think you could make an argument for BYU being in that top 5. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Being in
I
that
think
top 4. And I think that, the Jake Retzlaff of it all has knocked them all the way down to 9, just above Arizona. And then just the bottom half there. So we'll get into the top half in a second.
Didn't mean to cut you off there. I agree with you. I think that BYU would for sure be a contender for this conference if they had their quarterback situation a little bit more hammered out. And I did want to respond to what Glenn said here regarding Colorado versus Arizona. And I will say I had Colorado above Arizona. Kevin had it flip-flop, but we're also splitting hairs by one singular spot here. I think that, Colorado, yes, they went 9-3 last season. Arizona went 3-9. No doubt about that. They lost the 2 best football players that they've had in some time, right? I mean, they're one being a quarterback, one being the Heisman. It's hard to really lose 2 more impactful players on your team than a guy who plays both sides of the ball and is the Heisman, and the other one who's your literal quarterback. They lost a lot, man. And I think that there's a decent chance, and I think that all of this group here that we're talking about from Cincinnati to BYU is all, like, in our opinion, 5 to 7 win football teams. And like Colorado could definitely go like 7-5, and that would only be 2 less wins than they had with, kind of their last dance team. I think that would bode really well for Deion Sanders in a reset year for Colorado. So I'm not trying to discount them at all. I just think Arizona will not be as bad next season. I think they'll be a little bit more middle of the pack, and I think Colorado will kind of have to establish a reset year 1 year after losing their best players. And then next year with Julian Lewis, they'll be back to being, kind of in more of one of those contention spots for the Big 12. So I just think it's the nature of their kind of their team build that they have right now. Not saying that they're definitely in a better spot than Arizona is long term. I'm not trying to say otherwise. I just think that we're talking about the 2025 seasons as currently constituted, and I think that Arizona has, on paper at least, some decent options to attack 2025. I don't know what 2026 looks like at all, but Kevin, let's get into the top half right after the break here on the AZ Wildcats pod, and then we'll scream and yell at each other and see whose takes look worse at the end of the year.
Voted most likely to turn an ad break into a sports debate, Damon Fairall. But if you're ever in a meeting with Damon and he turns it into some sort of crazy nonsense sports argument, you could probably use some Pure Edibles, folks, because Pure Edibles, their effects are clearly listed on the tin. So you know if you're getting calming, pro sleep, little bit of energy boost, they got it all on the tin, clearly labeled. And plus, the dosages are easy to dial in. They're meant to rip, bite, share with all your friends if you're into that kind of thing. And plus, it's an Arizona-founded company right here in Arizona at the Noble Herb Dispensary.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, this is a company that does not just do edibles. This is a full-fledged candy company offering gummies, kicks, chews, and hard candies if you're into that kind of thing. So go find yourself some Pure Edibles products from the over 130 dispensaries. There's only like 170 according to AI across Arizona. And if you're not doing that, you got to get on the right track. So support our friends over at Pure Edibles.
Please do. And another company that, you guys hear us talk about all the time on this podcast that you're going to need to go hit up if you haven't done so already is Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Guys, Gila River Resorts and Casinos, they have it all. When you're talking about staycationing, there's no other place to do it because they have all of the dining options, Kevin. If you want a nice steak dinner, go to Prime A. Shula Steakhouse.
Yes, indeed.
Your boy, Kevin Thomas, checked it out. Unbelievable spread over there at the steakhouse at Wild Horse Pass. There's also, of course, some more lower scale, cheaper dining options. If that's more your style, they have all the live table games and slots. They have the beautiful concert venues with, for comedy shows, music concerts, you name it, man. And they have their pool area with their cabanas that, you can't beat here in the summer in Arizona. Guys, Gila River Resorts and Casinos is the one place to go when you need a staycation here. I'll tell you what, it's all that Vegas has to offer, but it beats having to travel to Vegas, having to, walk around and experience the smells of Vegas. Like, you're just inside the casino. It's nice and cool air. It smells good. It's sanitary, and you feel good all the time. It's the only place to watch football on Sundays with our PHNX Cardinals crew, which is going to be hanging out there for all away games. We're going to do our fantasy football draft there. We love Gila River Resorts and Casinos. I got to make my way out to Gila sometime soon again. And guys, they're also doing a straight game podcast there, live with Shaquille O'Neal on Saturday, August 16th. It's going to be Mike Bibby, Eddie House, Ty Ellis, the straight game podcast with special guest Shaquille O'Neal. Like I said, that's on August 16th at Wild Horse Pass. You guys are going to get to talk to them, ask them some questions, live, unscripted, and straight from the source. Tickets are at retail pricing when purchased online or by phone, but discounts are available at the box office only. Get yours now. You got a Wildcat, you got a Sun Devil, and you got Shaq, whose son was almost a Wildcat.
I mean, that pretty much, if you're in the state of Arizona and you're not interested in that, you just living under a rock. Not interested in life itself. That sounds like the best podcast outside of ours that you could possibly see live. Damon, we are going to finish up our Big 12.
We need a live studio audience. We kind of did for the beginning portion of that show.
And it was kind of elite. I kind of like it. I see what these late night hosts are into.
And you know what? As out of pocket as our takes were, when we got our points across, you didn't hear anybody saying anything.
No, they're like, oh, these guys make sense. They brought a logical argument to the table. And they discussed it pretty civilly.
Just saying. Yeah, Bibby still is on the juice. I saw him the other day at Section 7. That dude is huge, man.
Just a massive human?
He is. He's one of the largest humans alive.
Honestly, I feel like, real quick, just a 30-second side note, I feel like if you're a professional athlete and then you get to retire, why would you not get on steroids and just get absolutely huge? You couldn't do it before. Dustin Poirier said first thing he's going to do as soon as he retires is get on roids and just absolutely get
I'd
jacked.
say you probably wouldn't do it because it's really, really horrible for your long-term health. Maybe.
You live once. You only get to be that bulk once. You know what I mean?
That's a fact.
So,
That's a fact.
yeah. Anyway, back to the list.
Let's get into the top half of our list here. Going on to my ranking, and this is where I think things start to get interesting here, Kevin, because I have all like I said, like if any of these 8 teams won, I don't think I would be shocked. Kansas and Utah maybe more so, but the top 6 for me, I think are all very, very viable candidates to win it. I'm going Utah at 8 here. I just think that Kyle Whittingham he's such a high floor coach, in my opinion. I know they had a horrible season last season. That won't happen again, in my opinion. They're going to have a really good defense. They're going to run the ball super effectively with Devin Dampier, who I do have concerns about his stature and his size running the football in a power conference, given that that's by far his main attribute. He's not really a particularly good thrower of the football, but I believe in Utah's program enough where I think that they're kind of above that middling crop of teams that we named earlier: Cincinnati, BYU, Colorado, Arizona, Houston. I think they're just a step above those teams, but I think they're maybe a step below what I would consider maybe a conference contender. Even though I could be wrong here, Kevin, but I'm pretty sure Utah is the favorite to win the Big 12. If I'm not mistaken, I'm going to try to check here.
That must be a bait for engagement.
I'm going to try to check here
No
for
way.
our friends here at Bet365, which I'm not sure if they have it or not. So I'll check on a competing sports book here, Kevin. But
I mean, clearly our friends over at Bet365 have their wits about them. It wouldn't offer such a crazy thing.
Yeah, not a future that's available to the public right now. But trying to look here on a competing sports book. I believe it's moved here, but there was a time where they were number 1. Utah's currently 3rd to win the Big 12 Conference Championship game. 3rd.
Wow.
And we can talk about kind of how that list shapes out here once we finish up on our lists. But moving forward, I believe I have next team. I got Kansas at 7. I think Lance Leopold's a good coach. Kansas came on hot at the end of last season after having a disaster start to the season, and they really started playing a lot better football. I expect that to be more of the trend than the opposite. Kansas was ranked the 4th best team in the preseason poll last year, and they ended up at kind of towards the bottom. I believe that they did they barely make a bowl game. How did that work out? No, I believe they didn't make a bowl game. So yeah, kind of a brutal. Yeah, they finished 5-7, just a game out of a bowl game. But I don't know, man. I think Kansas is good. I believe in Jalen Daniels. They lost some close games last season. They lost to Illinois. They lost to a surprisingly good UNLV team. Then they lost a really bad loss to West Virginia, which they really couldn't have happen. Disastrous start to the season. They ended the season going 4 out of their last 6 were W's, with those losses coming to Baylor and Kansas State, who are 2 of the better teams in the conference. So I think they're going to be a good team this year. I think that what you're going to see is a lot more of that second half of the year sustained throughout the season rather than just in one half of the season. Next team on here, I got TCU. I think TCU has the best quarterback in the conference in Josh Hoover, which makes their ceiling pretty high. I think that there's a chance that they could make the conference championship game when it's all said and done. And I really like TCU. I wanted to put them above Texas Tech. I chickened out at the end and didn't do so because that's kind of a hot take, I feel like, that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily agree with. But I like TCU a lot. I think that they oftentimes have these hot, cold seasons, and they weren't very good last year. So we could anticipate maybe one of the hotter seasons coming this year. Then you have Texas Tech kind of rounding out the start of the top 5. Texas Tech has a $40 million football team. They're the most expensive team in conference. They have the best transfer class in conference. Texas Tech needs to be good next year. I think that we're going to see a disappointing Texas Tech season like we often do.
I mean, look, I'm going to get to this a little bit in my list in terms of the the microtransactions to bring out a gaming term of it all. Like if you can just buy your character to be a 99 overall, then we can talk about how we should actually rank you. But no, I'm with you, Damon. Like I think that it would be a little bit of a spicy hot take to have them at 6 behind TCU because they did pay for that. But we haven't seen it. We haven't seen any, like, you know what I'm saying? This is a preseason poll. I understand that. But I'm saying, like, if you are going into this saying, like, yeah, I for sure know that all these Texas Tech players are going to mesh perfectly. It's all going to go well year one. There's not going to be any air bubbles to iron out. It's going to all work out, and they're going to win the whole conference. I think that is a bold thing to proclaim. You know what I mean? And I while people might call you crazy, they might vote you second in some sort of superlatives list for that kind of take. I hear what you're putting down on that one, Damon.
At least I'm bringing takes to the table. That's what I would tell people.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you're too scared to let it fly. I'll face the noise. I'll Jon Snow it with all the horses running at me.
Verbal meme of the day.
Yeah. Glenn says Utah was 1 possession away almost every game. I hope you're right, though, Damon. I don't like them. I think as much as Glenn probably doesn't want to hear that, they probably were like kind of the anti-ASU in that regard last year, where they were kind of catching the worst end of all those one-score games rather than winning all those one-score games. And Kevin, why don't we finish this list out here in overtime on the AZ Wildcats pod? And I'll give you my top 4, and then we'll let Kevin do his top 8, and then we'll discuss here. My 4th team, I'm going Iowa State. Last year's Big 12 runner-up, tied with BYU and ASU at the top. Made the conference championship game and got worked by Cam Scadaboo and Sam Levitt and Kenny Dillingham and co. I think that Matt Campbell's a really good coach. Rocco Becht coming back. Like, I expect Iowa State to be a good team. I think that their floor is extremely high. I can't really see them going less than like 8 wins, but I also don't know how high I think their ceiling is. I don't think that they're in the upper echelon of, like, out of all those teams there, I think I'd give Texas Tech and TCU better chances of winning the conference than Iowa State, maybe even Kansas. Like I think Iowa State's good, but I don't know like if they're like elite, if that makes sense.
It does.
And then going into the top 3, I think these are really my true contenders here. If I kind of had to bunch up like an elite group, I got ASU 3, last year's conference champions, lots of starters coming back. I believe they lost, a safety. They lost Cam Scadaboo. That's really what we're talking about in terms of meaningful, contributors that they lost. Kenny Dillingham is one of the better coaches in the conference, if not the best coach in the conference. I think they'll be really good this year. I don't know if they'll make the conference championship game again. My guess is no, solely because I just think that, like, there's so much parity in this conference. It's really going to be difficult to, kind of like build a dynasty, if you will, in this conference. But I do think that they're going to have another really good football season. And then my 2 conference championship game teams are Kansas State and Baylor. And I think that these are a lot of people's favorites outside of ASU. Kansas State is the current favorite odds-on wise to win the conference title game. Baylor is 4th on this sports book that I'm looking at. Baylor, in my opinion, has the best quarterback running back combo in the conference in Sawyer Robertson and as well as why am I blanking on the Washington, the Baylor running back who's really, really good. I think
Bryson Washington?
Yeah, I think that battery is going to carry them all year. Here's where Baylor gets hurt a little bit. They play an insanely difficult schedule. I think they play what is considered the hardest schedule in the Big 12 conference next year. So we're going to find out early when it comes to how good Baylor is and if they are that team. I just like their build with, a really good quarterback, really good running back, defensive head coach. Like, I think it all kind of fits together as a team that you would to be reckoned with, right? But they play Auburn and SMU to start the season in non-conference, a team that made the playoff and an SEC school. And then they play ASU, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. Those are all in the first 6 games of the season. So
they have a nasty schedule.
They do have a really difficult schedule. I really like the build of Baylor this year. And then Kansas State, I just think that they're Mr. Consistency. If you had to put that on somebody, Kansas State is always going to be good, in my opinion, year in and year out. I just think that they're a football program that is built for that, and I expect them again to win like 9 football games, and that's why I have them there.
Damon, I respect the hell out of your list, and I think we should get into mine.
Let's do it.
In terms of the top 8 teams in my Big 12 preseason poll. I have Kansas at 8, and I did really him and haw over putting Kansas below BYU, and I know that sounds crazy, but Jalen Daniels is good. I'm not saying Jalen Daniels is bad. I'm not necessarily the biggest Jalen Daniels believer myself, but when you do have a quarterback that is good and is Big 12 good, I think that you have to be ranked over BYU. So that's how they cracked into my top 8, first of all. Moving into Iowa State, I think Iowa State's going to be good. I don't think they're going to be great this year. You do return Rocco Becht. You have incredible offensive line, veteran depth there if you're Iowa State. The running back tandem also has an incredibly high potential. But as some people in the chat have already alluded to, I think my number 6 team is genuinely a sleeper in this conference. I think that Utah, people are going to be like, Utah had such a bad year last year, and they did, right? But 2 of the teams that made the CFP last year had losing records the year before. ASU and Indiana both had losing records the year before making the CFP. Now, obviously, you have to have extraordinary circumstances for that to happen for your program. But my point with bringing that up is...
Did Indiana make it?
Did they? Oh!
I think they were like first.
You're right.
Out.
You're right. You're right. You are correct. Yeah. But you have my point here.
Yeah.
You can have a... Thank you for that fact check, though, by the way. But you do get the gist in that you can have a horrific year before and come back and gather the troops and run it back again.
Totally.
And I think that's what Utah is going to do with Devon Dampier, who has brought his offensive coordinator with him to Utah. They're going to up the tempo, up the RPO usage. And I think that having lost to Notre Dame, says Sam Alberts in the chat. But having Devon Dampier and having the new offensive coordinator, having the new scheme, new tempo for Utah, I think is going to breathe new life into the program. And we know Kyle Whittingham. I know you said that the program of Kansas State is Mr. Consistent, but I really feel like Kyle Whittingham is making a run for that title as well. I think it's going to be a bounce back season. He's not going to want to go out sad. He already has a successor in place, and retirement is on the mind. So I think he's in win now mode as Whittingham before he retires. And I think that Utah is the 6th team in this conference. TCU, the Hoover Patrol is out and about. The vacuums are out and about. The Hoovers, if you will.
The Hoover Dam.
Shout out to the UK. You know what I mean? They call their vacuums Hoovers, right?
I have no idea.
Pretty sure they do. Anyway, the 5th ranked team in my preseason poll is TCU for the fact that they have one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, and you also have good depth at the skill positions. I have
UK and Ireland.
Yes,
good call.
Nailed that. Thank you, British television. Baylor, number 4 on my list. I love Sawyer Robertson. I love what Dave Aranda has going on at Baylor. Dave Aranda had one of the best press conference clips I've seen in a while recently, outside of the Arizona Rattlers coach, who absolutely went off the other night. And if you haven't seen that, please go watch that video after our stream, of course. Now moving into my top 3, right? Because Baylor, obviously Sawyer Robertson, you had the end of 2024, which was incredibly strong. And then you had, I think, 440 yards of total offense per game last season, and you're bringing back a lot of that. So this top 4 for me is I'm splitting hairs, right? I think Baylor has also got equal right to win this conference this year, just like Kansas State, who Damon had in the title game, right? Kansas State, you've revamped your wide receiver room. Avery Johnson, is this finally the breakout year? It was supposed to be last year. But is it actually this year that Avery Johnson breaks out? If he does, I think that having them in that top 3 makes a lot of sense. You also have some of the best linebacker depth in the entire conference if you are K-State. Now, moving into that top 2, Arizona State and Texas Tech. When I was making my list, Damon, I found a bit of a conundrum logistically, because I feel like Arizona State, on paper, conference champions, defending, brought back, I think, the most % of production out of any other team in the conference last year. If we're keeping it objective, I think that is their spot to be lost in the preseason poll.
I love this.
I think that Arizona State, like we were talking about pre-show, all the expectations. You should be the preseason number 1 this year. What are you going to do with it? What are we doing with it? You know what I mean? What are you going to flop? Or are you going to fly, Arizona State? And you know what? Look.
You got the Heisman at quarterback.
Allegedly. And you're like, well, Kevin, but Texas Tech is at number 1. And I say, well, Texas Tech paid the highest bill. They're paying to be at number 1 on my list. Yeah, I don't know. You check the ledger. Arizona State, they bring back the better team on paper, but Texas Tech is bringing the bigger bill. And so I'm saying, if you're Texas Tech, that would be a slap in the face to those oil money investors that threw.
Let me check
all
your
that
direct
money.
deposit, Kevin.
I'm saying, well, I'm trying to earn a direct deposit here. All right, now look, that would be a slap in the face to those investors who put 40 mil on the deck to have the best team in the conference. I would be a fool to look at all that money and say, yeah, they don't got the talent to be a top 3 team. And we haven't seen a roster like this in the Big 12 yet, and I think that. I mean, honestly, with the new rules, we may never see it again. But I really feel like Glenn says in the chat, culture versus cash. In the preseason terms of everything, I'm giving it to Texas Tech because they have paid to play, and I'm going to let them play in that one spot. We'll see if it fleshes out in year one. Like I was talking to Damon a little bit earlier. Like, do we really think that in the NBA super team era, right? In year one of the super teams, and I wish we had our NBA guys over here to double check me on this. I feel like very rarely does it all work out because you have so much chemistry, you're relearning, you're teaching, you're finding the flow of everything. And then you add 50 some odd guys to that in terms of a football roster. And I think it's going to take even longer to figure out the flow in Texas Tech. But if they can do it day one, they've done something truly special.
I
but
I understand what you're saying.
That
completely.
is my top 3 right there.
And I feel like, there's genuine chance that this comes back to bite me in terms of where I have Texas Tech. Versus where you have them. Like, they do have the probably the most talented team for good reason. I'm going on that side of things. Like, I it sounds crazy, but much of my analysis has been like tangible stuff, right? Like things that are played out on the football field or ways that I'm projecting it to happen in this upcoming season. With Texas Tech, I almost like solely am just doing it off of vibes.
Kind of have to.
Like they, to me, that is such a disaster waiting to happen of like, we have the most expensive football team in the country in a conference where if you have the most expensive football team in the country, you should no question win the entire thing, right? Because this isn't the SEC where Texas Tech is competing with the other 8 of the top 10 in terms of money spent. No. Texas Tech is competing with probably the next closest spender is probably like 23 or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like they should win the conference. I just think Texas Tech is such a we almost had them type of football team. You know what I mean? Like, God damn, we were so good and we were so close and we almost had them. And they did that with Graham Harrell and they did that with Seth Diggy, and they like that's kind of been Texas Tech football. And so that's where I almost anticipate it happening again, where it's like they're going to have all the hype. They're going to have the high ranking early in the season. And I bet just down the stretch, they just lose to a team that maybe they shouldn't. Maybe a team that like that's not fair. Maybe it is a team that like is, very reasonable to lose to. But I just don't think that they're going to get the job done truly. I will say, though, that looking at their schedule right here, they end the season with BYU, UCF, West Virginia, which is like, that's beautiful. If you're a Texas Tech fan and you have the kind of the home stretch there, you're playing a team with no quarterback and then the 2 teams that are projected to probably be the worst in the conference. In the middle, though, you have a stretch where you play Kansas, Arizona State, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. So that'll be a difficult little stretch for them there that they'll have to prove themselves. That ASU Texas Tech game, that'll be fun to watch.
Oof. I mean, Glenn already has branded it. If we're doing like a boxing setup, it's culture versus cash. That's how you brand. That's how you sell that. I'm with it. I'm all about that. I'll watch the hell out of that.
I heard the ASU guys actually give their money back to ASU so that it can be given out in terms of scholarship funds to students in need.
Yeah, I heard Sam Levitt's broke. Actually, I heard he's every Friday sends Kenny a message like, "Hey, can I get 10 for some snacks at Circle K?"
I heard Sam Levitt volunteers at the soup kitchen.
Well, that's just because he's good. That's just because he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are our rankings. Don't come at us too hard in the DMs and in the comments. This is just our honest effort at sorting out maybe the tightest conference in America.
Like I said, me
it's
or
incredibly
you
difficult.
or both of us gonna look like an idiot when this is all said and done. And you know what? I personally, I don't know about Kevin, but the guy who's most likely to turn a meeting into a sports debate, I want all that smoke. Bring it to me. What you got, Texas Tech fans?
I mean,
Nothing I can't handle.
Kobe might have to be a connect and get you in contact with
And
that.
guess what? It's our cactus emoji.
Ooh.
You guys don't have cactus. Leave it. Leave
Let
it.
him know. Let him know, dog. Let him know, dog.
It means that much. It means everything. What else would mean everything is if you guys hit the like on this video and subscribe to our channel. Throw us a follow on PHNX_Wildcats as well. Great show today, Kevin. Tons of fun discussing and debating all types of lists, rankings. You know what we do on the AZ Wildcats pod. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. to discuss further all the happenings surrounding Arizona athletics that are going on. And yeah, you know we're going to bring you all the news and notes, keep you updated as much as we can. But that's my good buddy, old pal, Kevin Thomas, right over there. You can follow him at Kevo Posts, KEVOPOSTS. You can follow me at Damon Dog. That's it with a DAWG on the end of it. And like I already said, you can follow us at PHNX_Wildcats. It's been a lot of fun talking with you guys, debating rankings and lists all day today, even with you, Glenn. It's been fun. But please like this video, like I already said, and we'll catch you tomorrow at 2 p.m. on the AZ Wildcats pod. But until then, peace out, bear down.
We all silly like the mayor.